Yeah, sorry for the lack of content as of late, fellas. I've been kind of busy with work. But enough excuses, let's get down to business. If you know me, you know that I like fighting games. A lot. I mean, I suck at them like you wouldn't believe, but I do like them. In most of the world, fighting games first became really popular in the arcades. The most popular ones made it to home consoles and computers later, but the arcades were the main market. Well, I live in Siberia and we didn't have these arcades for many different reasons. We didn't really have the home consoles at first either. Instead, we had these Taiwanese Famicom knockoffs of varying crappiness. That's a whole other story for another time. So, Famicom and NES aren't actually known for having fighting games. Off the top of my head I can remember maybe 3. But no worries, our Taiwanese friends had us covered. Several teams of developers actually made bootlegs of other games. Those included downports of SNES and Mega Drive games, sprite swaps, and sometimes even full original games. Among those were NES versions of many different fighting games, which is what I want to talk about today. I will include several fighting game bootlegs that I used to play as a kid, so you can see what kind of crap kids in post-Soviet sphere had to deal with. Let's start with the very first fighting game I've ever played. Oh man, now that's a dose of nostalgia. This is Mortal Kombat 3 developed by Hammer Team. On the character select screen, you can see 14 portraits, but only 7 of them are unique, with the other 7 being repeats. This was a common thing with these bootlegs. They never have a lot of characters, but they copy-paste the same characters to create an illusion of there being lots of them. You'll see. In this particular game, there are only Sub-Zero, Stryker, Nightwolf, Sonya, Liu Kang, Kano, and Shao Kahn, who is playable and is pretty strong when played by an AI. Oh, and the game calls him Shang Tsung. Yeah. In terms of looks and sounds, the game is actually alright. There is a lot of sprite flickering sometimes, but overall the graphics are good aside from some coloring issues. The sounds aren't bad either. The music is okay too and even has some nice tunes. Yeah, but then it's like... No, the gameplay is simple. An NES controller only has 2 face buttons, so you only get 1 punch and 1 kick, and to block you hold back like you would do in any other fighting game. It feels a bit weird how A is punch and B is kick, but alright. There are also throws, sweeps and roundhouse kicks. I never figured out how to do the sweep, but crouch kick does the same thing well enough. Also, you do the roundhouse kick by mashing A, which is the punch button. Yes, it does indeed make no sense. All characters also have special moves, and all of them have the same inputs. Down to forward A, down to forward B, down down A, Shao Kahn and Nightwolf also have A plus B. At first glance, everything works fine. But then... So yeah, there is some jank in this game. Right off the bat, there are some serious problems with hitboxes. They are whack. Look at this. Where exactly are the hitboxes here? How does the projectile connect? I have no idea. Some other projectiles connect in a weird way as well. You can pull off some really weird combos in this game, like jump kick to uppercut to elbow strike. There is also zero invulnerability on Wake Up. Characters can be damaged as soon as they start getting up with no way of defending themselves. The AI seems to be aware of this too, because it often just bashes me on Wake Up in the corner. Sub-Zero is also a great source of jank. For one, his Ice Blast seems to be completely unblockable for some reason. The opponent just gets frozen in their blocking pose. Also check out what happens when you freeze the enemy and then throw them. However, the one greatest source of jank in the entire game is the roundhouse kick. As long as you are on the ground, you can cancel into it from anything. Yes, absolutely anything. Even from another roundhouse kick. Even from specials and throws. Thanks to how his throw works, Sub-Zero can execute a throw, then cancel it into a roundhouse kick. This has to be the weirdest combo I've seen in my life. Oh, but wait. I said you can cancel anything into the roundhouse, and I meant it. You can even use it to cancel your victory animation. Yes, really. And you can just keep canceling it forever. And when you stop, the game just instantly gives you both rounds. How? Why? What kind of programming happens for it to work like that? The world may never know. It's one of those great life mysteries for sure. Thanks, Juin Long. There is also a hack of this game called Mortal Kombat 4, yeah, a hack of a bootleg. It has 20 character slots, but actually has fewer characters, with Sub-Zero, Nightwolf and Kano being removed. And it also cuts 4 out of 7 stages. It's shit. Overall, the game is not particularly good, and as funny as the jank is, it doesn't really make it any more interesting. But you know what? This was my first fighting game, and I've enjoyed it a lot back in the wait, what the hell? Well, okay then, let's move on. Despite all the jank in it, this game is inoffensive and can be pretty fun. But I know, you want to see some real shit, don't you? Don't worry, I have some real shit for you. Here's, Mortal Kombat 5 Turbo 30, developed by Yoko, which is actually Konisoft, not that I care. It has a 5 in the title, but it's actually a bootleg port of the first game. Right off the bat, the game looks awful. It becomes apparent as early as the character select screen. These portraits look worse than my passport photo, and that's quite an achievement. The character sprites don't fare much better. They are not that well drawn and animated. And Liu Kang here has some weird 10 lines thing going on. I'd say the sprite flickering is an issue here, but the game goes beyond that. Parts of character sprites disappear outright. It's amazing, really. The backgrounds also don't look all that good. Some of them have animated elements, but it doesn't help much. Look at this statue here. The one stage that I'd say looks alright is Goro's lair. Goro isn't in the game, by the way. Neither is Johnny Cage. Not that I blame him. The game actually has day and night variations for the courtyard and the pit. And Warrior's Shrine, I guess. It isn't much, but it's a cool addition, I have to admit. The sound is... you know what? I'll let you listen for yourself. Sounds great, doesn't it? Don't worry, I'll mute the game and put on something good again. Perfect. Let's go back to the character select screen for a second. Look at this. I said that these bootlegs are known to have repeats, but this is ridiculous. There are 6 Kanos on the screen. I'll give them props for naming some of the clones differently, but this is still stupid. Who the hell is Sava? Oh, and you can't move cursor up and down, only sideways. But the assiest things... Is that even a word? It is now. The assiest things about the game are actually the controls and the gameplay. So check this out. We have 2 face buttons, right? So... A is attack and B is block. Of all aspects of the original they could be faithful to, why the block button? With attacking while standing you do a punch and kick when you crouch. When you jump, by pressing A you do a jump and punch, but B, the block button, now suddenly becomes a jump and kick. Sure, makes sense. Not really. Now the special commands. For an uppercut, you press down plus A and B. For a sweep, you press back plus A and B. Gotta give him credit where it's due. These attacks behave accurately to the original game at least. Except the uppercut cannot be blocked. Also, none of the characters have throws. Except Kano. He can also do this. What the hell is this Guilty Gear Strife damage? Special moves are done the same way as the uppercut and the sweep. You press a direction with both A and B buttons. Projectiles are done with forward plus A and B. Other specials are done with commands like up plus A and B or down forward plus A and B. Notably, they have Raiden's teleport, which is pretty cool. What isn't pretty cool is that Sonya and Scorpion only have their projectiles. This game doesn't feel good to play. The walk speed is slightly faster than a snail's pace, and while the game actually runs at proper frame rate, the on-screen movement is jerky, which makes it even more unpleasant to look at in addition to bad graphics. Look at that skeleton. Even he doesn't want to be in this game. Even as a less than intelligent kid, I knew this game sucked. In fact, this was the second game we actually returned to the store. However, this game is actually an update of another game by the same developer. The original has faster movement and more sound effects, and characters only have one clone each. It's better, I guess, but still not good. Let's have a palette cleanser and see how it's really done. That is, how to make a proper bootleg. Here's a port of MK1 made by Hummer Team, same fellas who made the MK3 bootleg from earlier. From what little research I did, it appears that the most of the decent bootleg ports were actually done by them. And it's called Mortal Kombat 2. Okay, sure. Anyway, the title screen has a proper palette accurate to the original game, which is already a good sign. And look at this character select screen. This is so nice looking, so clean. It's just the entirety of MK1 roster plus Shang Tsung and Goro. The portraits are actually adapted from the original game and some of them don't look good, but it's still better than this. In-game graphics are also good in my opinion. Sprites for some characters are clearly taken from the original, probably the Super NES version, and adapted into 8-bit format. This is most evident with Johnny Cage and Liu Kang. I think they look pretty good, even if Cage's victory animation looks weird. Sprites that look like they were drawn from scratch like the ninjas are also pretty good. Idle animations look somewhat weak, with only having 2 frames, and 1 frame for Shang Tsung, but attacks are well defined and easy to read. Walk animation looks kind of weird though. There are some weird looking frames, but overall characters look good I think. Except Goro, whose sprite is really lacking in detail. And is very small. What isn't small are the stages. They look really big compared to the characters. This is especially noticeable in the courtyard and Shang Tsung's palace. Look at him, he's freaking gigantic! That said, none of this is unpleasant to look at. Arenas are nicely detailed and the crowd in the courtyard actually starts applauding when you win. And the characters stand out against the background, making everything perfectly readable. I also like the game's soundscape. The hit sound effect is very crunchy. And music is also pretty good. Title screen and character select were taken from the original, but music tracks for the arenas seem completely new. At least I don't recognize any of them. Here, check this out. When you start playing, the game feels perfectly fine initially. We're back to the same bootlegger's control scheme, A is punch and B is kick. The movement is fluid, I didn't notice any hitbox dissonance, and there isn't that much jank that could negatively affect the gameplay. The AI is dumb. It doesn't know what to do against projectiles and is clearly programmed to respond in specific ways to certain inputs, but otherwise it feels really pleasant. The game even has this nice slow motion moment when the round ends. But below the surface there are some serious problems, most having to do with accuracy compared to the original. Uppercuts don't launch the opponent, and there are no sweeps, their function is kind of filled in by crouched kick. Then there are specials. Raiden's torpedo doesn't behave the way it should on block. Sonya and Kano lose their wave punch and cannonball specials, which are replaced by attacks that function identically to Raiden's torpedo. So does Liu Kang's flying kick. But the biggest tragedy are Scorpion and Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero's Ice Blast doesn't freeze, it may as well be a normal block of ice. Scorpion lost his spear and froze a fireball instead. He also lost his teleport punch special, which was replaced by Sub-Zero's slide. The ninjas are basically full moveset clones like Ryu and Ken were in early Street Fighter. Only Scorpion's slide doesn't knock the opponent down. Some other specials were lost as well, like Johnny Cage's split punch or Raiden's teleport. None of Goro's boss properties are realized here either. He just plain sucks. Now, all of this makes the game sound bad, but I don't think it is. In fact, if this were your first fighting game, I'd say it's not the worst option. The gameplay doesn't feel bad at all despite the aforementioned flaws, serious as they are. The gameplay even has an arcade mode that's pretty accurate to the original. You fight all the playable characters, then 3 endurance matches, then Goro and Shang Tsung. They even made Shang Tsung's transformations work correctly, where he transforms into a random character every few seconds. And his name is misspelled as Skang Tsung. Yeah. So overall this bootleg is actually pretty good. It's certainly better than the official Game Boy port, that's for sure. There is also an update of this game called Mortal Kombat 3, It made some changes to the arenas and, more importantly, you can now select all the player 2 colors for all the characters. So, if you wanted to play a strawberry-flavored Scorpion, now you can. Yes, there are 3 Shang Tsungs in the background. Why? It also has a weird bug where if player 1 picks Sub-Zero's player 2 color, the background will have this white filter or whatever it is. Me and my friends used to joke that Sub-Zero got angry at something and froze the arena. This is it for the Mortal Kombat bootlegs I played as a kid. Note that none of these games have proper character endings, or any sort of finishers. This piece of shit even prompts you to finish your opponent, but no, there are no fatalities here. What a disgrace. It even has invincibility toggle right there in the options, they knew it was a drag to play. There is also a bootleg port of MK2 that is supposed to be pretty good, but I never got to play it as a kid. And we already had a PC when I learned about it anyway. Man, imagine going from this to this. Anyway, it's time to depart to the magic land of SNK. Let's start with the bootleg port of the original Samurai Shodown, developed by Rexsoft. This game actually preserves the intro, which looks pretty decent, and it's a good start, but it's the best thing about the game, unfortunately. The game features only 4 characters: Nakoruru, Haomaru, Ukyo, and Charlotte, plus a recolored clone for each of them. There is also supposedly a version that replaces the clones with Galford, Wanfu, Jubei, and Kyoshiro, but I have never seen it. In-game graphics are hit and miss. Character sprites look fine if not very detailed, but they are all the same overall size, which ends up making Nakoruru look bigger than Haomaru. Backgrounds are generally less detailed than the original ones, but they look fine overall. Green Hell especially looks good. The weird thing is that Ukyo occupies Jubei's stage and Charlotte occupies Tum-Tum's. The music is alright, sometimes. Banquet of Nature honors melody and indigenous get good renditions, but some other melodies sound like hazardous 8-bit droning, because they chose less than perfect sound to represent the flutes. Another issue is that the music and sound effects occupy the same sound channels, so the effects end up muting music whenever they occur. Then there's gameplay. It starts out alright, you have 2 buttons, A is slash and B is kick. Pressing the button by itself gives you a weak attack, and forward plus a button gives you a strong attack. Then you dig deeper and problems arise. There are no throws, at all. All the characters except one only have one special move. Specials are also all invincible and completely unblockable. The kicker is that the player cannot use them, at all. I tried every conceivable combination but didn't find any working ones. Oh, but the computer uses them just fine. The AI is incredibly simple. I think it only has like 4 routines. Spam attacks if the enemy is close, move backwards then use a special, jump around with an attack, and move forward then use an attack. I have never seen the computer do anything else. There are also certain other oddities in gameplay. For example, some characters' hurt box activating during the wake up animation, and if you attack, the character gets up first and then plays the pain state animation. It's especially noticeable with Nakaruru here. Oh, and Nakaruru doesn't have Mama Haha, by the way. And she bleeds orange juice for some reason. Other issues include most characters not actually having different animations for quick and strong attacks and missing gameplay features from the original, like the disarming mechanic or everything relating to the rage meter. And they make you go for this minigame after every 2 fights, which is a little annoying. The one thing I will give this game genuine praise for is that they actually have a proper boss fight at the end. Amakusa lost most of his stuff from the original like all other characters, but he's still a pain in the ass. He spams his teleport just like in the original and uses his projectile pretty often. This was my first contact with SNK bosses, and I never actually beaten him as a kid. Not that there is anything worthwhile at the end, it's just this screen and then it says "The End". No character endings once again. So yeah, the bootleg is pretty bare bones and isn't all that good. But don't worry, it gets worse. Before we start this one, I want to warn you that there is a lot of screen shaking going on here, so if you are prone to motion sickness you might want to switch to a different tab. The last game I want to show you is the bootleg port of King of Fighters 95, also developed by Rexsoft. It came out in 1997, so they called it the King of Fighters 97. Okay, sure. They tried to replicate the intro here as well, but the console limitations didn't let them. It still looks alright though. Right off the bat there are only 9 characters. Kyo, Mai, Rolf, Clark, Choi, Chin, Robert and Eiji. These are the only characters that are in the game. However, there are 24 character slots, divided between 8 teams. Naturally, there are lots and lots of repeats, though at least they have different colors. If you know your KOF, you might be asking, but wait, where's the Ori? Well, he's in the intro over here, but not in the playable roster. That's right, the main addition to KOF and main character's rival is just not in this. Neither are Takuma and Joe actually, who are also in the intro. And then we move on to the actual gameplay and... oh boy. This is just unpleasant to look at. All this screen shaking looks awful. Before we get rigorously upset, I want to at least acknowledge that the backgrounds look pretty good. And so does the character art on the victory screen. Oh wow, that's very rude. Music is pretty good too. It has some nice remixes of the stage themes, and I especially like this bootleg's rendition of Club M. Sound effects? Yeah, there are no sound effects at all. Okay, we're done with the good stuff, back to the gameplay. It plays almost exactly the same as the Rexsoft Samurai Shodown bootleg, but somehow worse despite being released 2 years after it. All normals seem to be instantaneous. Their full hitbox activates when the animation is still in startup. It also seems like the player is still unable to use special moves. But at least they are blockable. Sometimes. Then there are projectiles. I am not entirely sure how to describe this, but it seems like the projectiles sort of scroll with the background as they move. It makes them a pain in the ass to dodge too. But if you do dodge them, the AI will usually catch you with a jumping attack. AI in general looks like a monkey overdosed on caffeine. It usually just jumps aimlessly and spams attacks, and sometimes uses a special, of which there is still only one per character. So the game is already not particularly good, but don't worry, it gets even worse. The game has some bizarre glitches. The one I see most often is the background glitching up and the characters straight up turning into other characters that are on their current team. Again, I can't even imagine what kind of programming happens for this to occur. It only seems to happen during team play though. I never encountered it during solo play. But the worst glitch has to do with the characters from the second team in the left column. There is a chance that the above glitch will occur here as well, but it's so much worse here. There is a chance that the CPU character will turn into Clark and start walking to the either side. When that happens, he will become completely invincible, so you cannot damage him at all. And if you think you can just wait for the timer to run out, haha, no! The timer freezes if this occurs. So the game essentially becomes soft-locked. This happened every time I played the game in the past, and I only got lucky once during recording, where it didn't occur, which allowed me to progress past this point. Boss fight with Regal sucks, by the way. He behaves exactly like any other character, and doesn't even have his genocide cutter. Oh, and it gets worse. Some other team of bootleggers seems to have stolen the ROM of this game and released their own version of it. I don't think there were any real changes too. The thing is, Rexsoft used a unique header for the ROM, which acted as copy protection. If the game didn't see this header, it reset your progress in arcade mode after every fight, so you couldn't get to the end. So yes, pirates pirated the game from other pirates who put copy protection on their pirate bootleg game. This is Inception levels of piracy. And the best part is that this pirated copy was the one I had as a kid. Isn't that just freaking great? So there you have it. There's some good, some bad, definitely some ugly. These aren't the only fighting game bootlegs on the NES, just the ones I've had. I also remember playing some Street Fighter 2 bootleg in a friend's house, but I don't remember which one it was. There are plenty more other bootlegs like this one or whatever this is. And it's not just the fighting games. The world of Chinese bootlegs is vast and infinite. Who knows what kind of other horrors await beyond? Well, I do actually. So maybe I will look at some other bootlegs later. Thank you for watching this video, dear viewer. If you liked it, you know what to do. Sorry for the lack of uploads. I'll try to release the next one soon. Keep on rocking and I'll see you next time. Okay, wanna hear something funny real quick? Back when I was playing this KOF bootleg, I didn't know you could shorten the year number like that, so I actually thought that there are in fact 97 King of Fighters games. I was dumb.